Hi, hey, hello, how's it going? It's Emily, and today we're going to be starting the second vlog. Let me get you adjusted a little bit here. Second vlog for the month of September. So I will soon be wrapping up the last vlog. The last vlog is ending with the Otherwhere post by Emily J. Taylor. And so I wanted to go ahead and start this next one so I would know what book to pick up next. And here we have the TBR jar. So for those of you who didn't watch the first vlog, I put all of the books I wanted to read in the month of September, which was determined in my TBR video, which is also going to be the most couple of recent videos on my channel, I think. And so look at the past few videos. My TBR for September is up. And then in the first vlog, I was using this to determine my TBR. I'll continue to do that for the rest of the month. I didn't particularly care what order I read all of the books, and so I figured it could be fun to introduce a little bit of chance into the mix and just put them on strips of paper, just put all of the titles that I wanted to read on strips of paper and let fate decide. So we're going to determine what book we're starting this vlog with. Just give it a bit of a shake and then pick one out here. And let's see what we have. Ooh, Werewolf's Guide to Seducing a Vampire. Very fun. So this will be the first one. This should be a pretty quick read too. So this will be a nice one this will be a fun one to start out with. So that'll be, and I'll hold it up in the next clip. It is right there, but I just wanted to go ahead and at least open this vlog and figure out what we're going to be reading. And I will, yeah, as I said, hold up the actual book in the next clip so that you know what it looks like. But yeah, I will check in once I have read some of the book. So I have been reading A Werewolf's Guide to Seducing a Vampire. This is so much fun. I love this series so much. I love her writing. It's just funny and easy to get into. I love this small town that she's created. I always adore her characters. And we've followed Ben before, I believe, he's friends with some of the other characters that we've seen. And then this is Eleanor. And he is attending the wedding of some other characters we've met before and is just a little lonely, and at one point decides to buy what he thinks is this joke plastic, is it a gemstone thing? Crystal? That he thinks it's this joke plastic crystal that claims to have this creature inside that can be the best girlfriend ever, and so he jokingly buys it while he's drunk after this wedding. And turns out it wasn't false advertising, and Eleanor pops out and has been stuck in this thing for a long time, and the previous person who had it used her for a long time to kill their enemies, and would, have her come out every now and then to kill one of their enemies or to watch some Star Trek, and so she's none too pleased to be controlled by someone. She wants to be free. Ben just bought this as a joke. He has no idea that this was actually a thing. He wants her to be free too, and they need to figure out how to do that. But anyway, so that's kind of the start of this, is he accidentally summons her or brings her out of this crystal. And so she has a few ideas of what technology is just from kind of being out of this crystal for a while. But the last time she was out of this crystal was, I think, in the 1960s. And so, she doesn't really know anything about modern technology. And so she's trying to learn modern technology and just how to operate in the modern world. And anyway, he's trying to help her along in that process. And his sister is running for mayor. And there's an incident at a dinner that they're going to, that these two main characters are at. They're just having dinner one day, and there's an incident, and it was videotaped, and so in order to kind of appease his sister, he basically tries to explain away this video by saying that she is a performer and it was part of an advertisement for her upcoming show that she's going to be performing. He owns a plant nursery and is planning to expand the space into, or he's purchased the space nearby this plant nursery and is planning to turn it into a coffee shop, like community space, have events there, that kind of thing. And so he claims that she is going to be one of his first acts that is performing at this space. And so, but it just kind of comes out as he's talking to his sister and just kind of falls out of his mouth. But he hasn't actually, like, she's not a performer and he hasn't talked to her about this. Anyway. And so there's a little bit of other stuff in the community going on that he's trying to work out. And we'll see if she performs. Hopefully she is down to perform. I don't know, I think that would be hilarious. And that she integrates herself into this community and ends up being charmed by this town and ends up being charmed by Ben. He's such a sweetheart. He is just a very sweet guy, and she is half vampire, half succubus, and is just very fiery and just fun and passionate. And anyway, I really like their dynamic already. I adore these characters. Again, I already adore the town, so having a good time with this. It's time to draw again. I'm not that far into it, but I just want to draw again for for the next book. So let's pick out the next. Oh, I accidentally have two. We'll just do this one. What you're looking for is in the library. So this is a very short one, so this one won't take very long to read at all. And is a translated work and translated from Japanese, and it's one of the prompts for Magical Readathon. So, by the way, I have been doing a terrible job in the previous vlog of actually saying what the books were for, like what prompts they were for the various things that I'm reading for this month, but whatever. Anyway, I'm very excited about this one. I think it's going to be a really fun read. So, we now know what we're reading next, and I will continue to read A Werewolf's Guide to Seducing a Vampire and just be living my best life. So it is now a Saturday, and I have finished the romance. I'm also a good chunk into What You're Looking For is in the library. I need to make this quick, so we're going to talk about the books a little later, and what we're going to do now is draw another book. So there are only a few left in here, I think. So let's see. Oh, The Enchanted Greenhouse is next. I actually just saw the image for the third book in this series. It's absolutely stunning. So I'm excited to catch up with this one. I absolutely adored Spell Shop, so very excited to continue and in that world. Anyway. So I need to make this update pretty quickly because I am not near my camera's charger and I don't have too much battery left. It is Sunday. It is once again during the Cowboys game. By the way, the Cowboys game last week was wild. So wild. Anyway, hopefully this one won't give me heart palpitations like that one did. We still won, but it gave me heart palpitations. Anyway, let's catch up. So I had just pulled The Enchanted Greenhouse when I last filmed a clip, but didn't have time to talk about the other books. So let's catch up. We have A Werewolf's Guide to Seducing a Vampire. I did finish this one. Thoroughly enjoyed. Such a fun series. The themes, she can definitely kind of knock you over the head a little bit with the themes, but not in a way that I minded. And the characters I just absolutely adored. I adored their dynamic. I just love this town, Glimmer Falls, and these characters' interactions and their friendship and their found family bonds. it's just great. It was a lot of fun. So I think I gave the basics of, he bought a crystal off of eBay that included our other main character, Eleanor, and is trying to figure out how to free her from this curse that binds her to this object. So he's trying to figure out how to help her, and meanwhile his sister is actually running for mayor to kind of run against the mayor that really isn't great. And so his sister is trying to run for mayor so that awful mayoral candidate, who is actually the current mayor, does not win the election and doesn't go uncontested. And so he's dealing with that. He's also expanding his space, and so he unintentionally had her, unintentionally made a command for her to perform at this this opening night event. He comes to realize that the way he phrases things and becoming, that phrasing, making it in order, is important. And so he learns to avoid that, and they kind of have a conversation about that. And so, he's juggling a lot. And, falling in love with our other main character. She's falling for him as he's trying to help her figure out what to do about her situation. Anyway, I adored this one. I also did finish What You're Looking For Is at the Library, and this one was amazing. I loved it. I think I could be a huge healing fiction fan. And in this one, we follow 5 short stories, basically, of 5 different characters who, for one reason or another, find themselves at a library in this community center. And they go in searching for certain information, types of books. And so the librarian will recommend some titles that maybe they think is what they're looking for, and then we'll also include one other recommendation for something that seems kind of out of the blue, but for one reason or another turns out to be exactly what they need to make some sort of realization about their life. And it's not that book fixes problems, but I love her writing. I love the way she talks about these characters and has us get to know these characters. And I love the way that this book kind of introduces a subtle shift in their thinking to either help them make certain decisions or take control of certain situations or see something differently that really changes their perspective. And this was delightful. This was so delightful. Would highly recommend. It's just a calm, quiet set of stories, but I think you'll find something to relate to in these stories. I definitely did, for sure. And I have since started the Enchanted Greenhouse. I'm not too far in, but we are following our main character, Terlu, and this is the origin story for the sentient spider plant that we meet in the spell shop. And so Terlu isn't supposed to create this sentient spider plant, but does, gets punished for it, and her punishment is to be turned into this statue. And she basically comes out of being this statue and comes across this enchanted greenhouse and has met this cat character that's on the cover here, and hasn't met the person who works or runs this greenhouse yet, who I assume is going to be the love interest. But again, not far in, but I'm loving the vibes, loving the writing, and very much looking forward to continuing this. So I'm going to stop talking before my camera dies, and we'll chat more about this one once I have more read. Actually, before I go, I'm going to go ahead and pick my next one. There are only 2 left. I'll explain why I moved the Atlas 6 finale to October once I have more battery, but I only have 2 left, so basically this is going to determine the order for the rest of the books I have planned for this month. But this is what's going to be next. And we have, all right, Skullomance number 2 and 3, so I'm going to read both of them back to back. And I'll talk more about that in the next clip. So I desperately need to check in with this vlog. This vlog is going to be a lot shorter than the other one, I think, because I've done a terrible job recently about checking in. But let's get up to date, shall we? So I did, in fact, finish The Enchanted Greenhouse by Sarah Beth Durst. I absolutely love this one. The cozy vibes of this and the spell shop are just immaculate. I love the characters. They're just so cozy, heartwarming, enchanting, and I just absolutely love them. I think I gave the background of this one where she created this spider plant using magic she wasn't supposed to use, gets turned into a statue to be made an example of, finds herself in this place as she is brought back to life or unstatued. And there are problems going on with these greenhouses. The magic is starting to fail, and so she's trying to figure out how she can bring the magic back to this place and bring this place back to life, basically. And, starting to fall for the gardener that's there. And there are just so many wonderful side characters here. I absolutely adore the animal companions or the plant companions. And I love everything about this one. And I'm so excited for the next one too, because the next one follows the person who runs the ship that brings stuff between these different islands. We've seen that character in both of these books. So very excited to get their story. And I don't know, these are just absolutely perfect if you just want a calming, cozy time. And, she's dealing with stuff she's not sure that she can contact her family or if it's safe to, or if people would be looking for her if they knew she was alive. He's dealing with family stuff. The rebellion that we see part of in the spell shop is starting to occur. And so that brings about a lot of change. Anyway, these books are so good, and I'm so excited for the next one. I also had my Environmental Book Club meetup, and we read What If We Get It Right? Visions of Climate Futures by Ayanna Elizabeth Johnson. Would highly recommend everyone read this one. This was fantastic, and I think it's important to not just ask what happens if we get it wrong, or what kind of future are we trying to avoid, but make sure that we have a clear picture of what future we're trying to create, and to have that positive thing to look forward to and work towards, and actually have a vision in our mind of what we are actually working to build as far as a more sustainable future. And so she is a climate scientist and specifically has worked a lot on oceans, and she has a podcast of the same name. So if you're interested, also listen to her podcast. I need to check out her podcast. I didn't realize she had one until reading this, and there are a lot of interviews in here. And she mentions a podcast, and when she started doing the interviews, I was like, maybe she actually has a podcast, and part of this is adapted from doing interviews for her podcast. And eventually she mentions it as well. So I need to actually keep up with her podcast. I've been terrible about keeping up with podcasts, but so she does have a podcast of the same name, What If We Get It Right? And really is trying to ask the people that she interviews who are experts in different things, different aspects of climate change, and ask them about their expertise and what they want to share, but also what does it look like if we get it right in the context of, your expertise and what we're talking about. What does it look like to get it right? Which is just really refreshing and really, I think, a good way to think about it. So this was super interesting. Would highly recommend everyone read this one. Again, audiobook was really cool because she's a very experienced narrator running a podcast, and so she's a great narrator. The author narrates the parts of it that are kind of her speaking. And then, it's actually basically like listening to a series of podcasts, because a good chunk of it is interviews. And then there's some other stuff mixed in as well that are super interesting. So would highly recommend. I have read The Last Graduate, which is the second book in the Skullmance series. I'm currently almost done with The Golden Enclaves, which is the third one. So I'll just kind of talk about them together because I don't know, there's only gonna be so much I can say anyway about these, but the Skullman series in general follows Elle. It's a first-person perspective story, so we're in her head, and she's trying to survive the Skullman's, which is a school that kind of trains people in magic to be able to help defeat all of these basically monsters, different types of creatures and monsters and stuff that are out there. And some of them are at the school too, and trying to get into the school to kind of feed off of their magic. And, you know, you go through your different years at school, and then the normal hope is to be able to join one of these enclaves that this title is referring to, which are basically just collections of or groups of magicians who then can kind of help protect each other. And, you know, the students kind of help protect each other to help each other get through, but not everyone makes it through. A lot of people die at this school, but there are also a lot of people dying outside. So, you know, in some sense, you're better off going to this school to try to be able to better defend yourself and other people, and maybe your enclave if you can get into an enclave. But the interesting thing too throughout the series is just the various ways that classism plays a part in this, and rich enclavers are basically able to make sure that their families are able to be more successful getting out of the Skullman's, more successful or more likely to actually be able to get into an enclave and protect themselves. So it basically is a very perpetuating, or a cycle where the rich and well-off continue to be rich and well-off or protected by magic and by money and by power, and how this school is kind of part of that system. So it's super interesting. And she's a junior in the first book. In this one, she is a senior. And so this one really, the school is kind of targeting her in some ways in this one when she's a senior. And then, so she's figuring that stuff out. And then they also need to figure out a plan to get through graduation, because they need to go out, basically exit out of the graduation hall. And some of these monsters, basically, it's where a huge collection of these monsters are. And so they need to basically have a plan to survive getting out of the school. And in this one, we follow a bunch of stuff happening. There's stuff happening outside of the school, and so some of our characters get caught up in different things going on outside of the school. And that's all I really want to say about this one. Just enclaves are being attacked, things are happening, so our characters are trying to figure out what's going on. So that's really all I want to say about the specifics of these two books, but it's just a very interesting series. The writing is very just different and interesting in this one, and it's going to be either you enjoy it and you can get into learning more about this school and this world and being in Elle's head, or you are gonna hate it. It's a love-hate thing, I think, for most people, and I think you'll get a very quick idea about whether or not you're gonna get along with the writing style. I would actually recommend the audiobooks. I think it's easier. I think the narrator does a really good job, and I think it's easier to be in Elle's head hearing the narrator perform the book. I think it works well for this kind of writing, and it makes, because there is a lot of exposition too about different aspects of the world that you're hearing through Elle's narration, and so I think the audiobook, if you're struggling through some of those parts, I think the audiobook can also kind of help there a bit. Anyway, but definitely an interesting series. So I'm enjoying that so far. So I'm going to finish this one, and then we basically just have one book left, and there are only a couple of days left in the month. So I think I can do it though, because I think I'm going to finish the Golden Enclaves today and start this one. So I think I will not have a problem finishing this over the next 2.5 days. I think that'll be a doable thing. And then I will film my October TBR, and it'll be time for a jam-packed October TBR. So many books I want to read in October, and I think I'm going to do a spinner wheel for October. I think that's going to be what I do. So anyway, I will finish Golden Enclaves and let you know once I have some thoughts on this one as well. So this is embarrassing. It's a few days later. It's Wednesday, October 1st, and I swear I thought I checked in partway into Immortal Consequences, but I was just double checking the clips and in fact did not. But I did finish this last night, right at the end of the month, so perfect timing. And I had so much fun with this one. I really enjoyed this a lot. This one was just really interesting and different feeling. And we're following a group of students. We're following 6 students. And initially, if you say you're following that many characters for me, I wonder if it's gonna feel like it's too many characters to follow, but I didn't actually end up feeling that way with this one. But we're following 6 students. They go to this academy, this school that's in between life and death. So all the characters have died. And they're at this school, they're learning about magic and ether and reaping souls, that kind of thing. And some different potential things can happen to you if you are able to go to this school. So not everyone who dies goes to this school. Some just pass into the beyond. Some are stuck in this kind of ether, no man's land in between life and death. But the students at this school, basically it feels like they're just living their normal life, but going to school is kind of how their life goes. They eventually start to forget memories of their life, and the more and more they forget, if they start to forget all of their memories, then they themselves are kind of put into this ether to forever just kind of float about in the ether, not really passing on, but not at this school. And none of the students want that. The other option, so every 10 years there's this kind of, I say competition, there's this trial or demonstration of magic where the top student gets to go through these different trials, display their magic, and if they're successful in all 4 of these trials, then they get to become part of this kind of elite group at the school. They learn more about magic, they're given more magical abilities, they kind of help keep things running at the school. I don't think they teach at the school, but they help keep things running at the school, and they help reap souls, control the ether, that kind of thing. But they get to permanently stay if they win this competition or win these set of trials, and they're selected to be a part of it and go through it, then they get to be part of this group and permanently stay at the academy. Or they also get to choose to go into the beyond, go into the afterlife. But of course they don't really know what that looks like, what that means. And so there's also a group called the Demian Order who use darker magic, shadow magic, and they're trying to take control of a lot of magic and do things that, according to the school, they're not supposed to do. And so there's kind of, if you want to come into your power, another option is to go into this Demian Order. And some students have kind of been lost to the Demian Order. And so those are kind of some of the paths that you can take once you get to this school. And so our main characters are all hoping that they're selected against just one person selected to compete in the top student, basically, who is selected to compete. I guess they're not really competing against other students. They're kind of making sure that they can go through this set of trials. And so they're all hoping that they're selected and that they can then potentially become part of this elite group at the school. Or do all of them want that? Some of them are having different thoughts about maybe what they want to do, but they don't necessarily want to say that. Anyway, so we get to these set of trials, and it's announced that it is actually going to be a competition, and that there are going to be 2 students selected from each of the there are 6 houses at the school, and there are going to be 2 students selected from each of the houses to compete for the spot. Compete for the ability to choose either to stay in this elite group at the school or move into the Beyond. And I don't know, it's just a really interesting setup and premise to me. And I enjoyed the writing, I enjoyed these characters. I was really feeling very quickly, starting to feel the chemistry between a lot of these characters. And I thought that was really well done, just the dynamic between them and really getting that chemistry set up very quickly. I was feeling the connection between these characters. I was wanting to follow what was happening, what was going to happen in this set of trials. And again, I know there are a lot of perspectives, but because they're together quite a bit of the time, there are times where they're doing their own thing, but they're also together quite a bit of the time. So it really wasn't that hard to keep track of the different perspectives, the different people, and what was going on in each of their specific situations. I had so much fun. So sorry for not checking in while I was actually reading it, but that means we can go ahead and wrap up this vlog, and hopefully I'll be able to get this up soon. So thank you so much for watching as I continue some fall reads. I really enjoyed using the TBR jar throughout the month of September. I'll have to do this again at some point. I think in October, I'm going to start using a spinner wheel and have just a different way to kind of add some randomness to those vlogs. So if you're interested in that, be sure to watch my October TBR. I did just put it up this morning, and stay tuned for some vlogs for October where I will use a spinner wheel, and be sure to subscribe to keep those coming and see those when they're posted. And I will leave my Instagram linked down below, as well as more information about how you can support the Black Lives Matter movement, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.